Geek Vision.
Today we look at the World Expo, aka let's put things here that don't fit anywhere else, except Twister. We'll put that in New York. First, there's Fear Factor Live. Never saw it, don't care. Next, Men in Black Alien Attack. Located in the New York World's Fair, so it fits with the Expo lack of theme, but it also would have fit in New York, if it could physically fit in New York. I'm getting sidetracked. We start off with, surprise, surprise, a parody of that other theme park chain and its history of taking the things it built for the World's Fair and giving them a permanent home in the parks, and letting their hokiness and outdatedness live on forever. But it turns out that's just a front for MIB's recruitment center, as Rip Torn's angelic voice guides you into an elevator and welcomes you underground to the Control Headquarters, Men in Black Headquarters. And then we get to our basic training simulation, but when some alien prisoners break loose downtown, it's time for all hands on deck, even us rookies. It's no training simulation anymore, even though his royal freshness still gives you a score at the end. And here we get a shooter ride that might not have as many specific reactions as Lost Kingdom Adventure, but it has a whole lot more stuff to shoot. While I do like a lot of motion simulators, and I appreciate the use of video screens to enhance rides, physical animatronic creatures are part of what makes a theme park unlike any other form of entertainment, and this ride is overflowing with them. I could spend a whole series of videos exploring all the great details in this ride, and even in its queue, but that would require really focusing on getting footage on the ride, and screw that, I want to blow things up! So I'll just briefly address my 5 favorite little touches. Number 5. MIB staff posts Far Side comics about aliens on the bulletin boards. I can only imagine that led to a long talk with HR. Number 4. The Goofus and Gallant parody safety video. I guess someone at the agency really likes all that World's Fair cheesiness. Number 3. The shoutouts to Universal Sci-Fi Legacy. Sure, it might just be a result of needing to populate the New York streets with stuff they have the rights to, but it sure makes me smile. Number 2. These 2 aliens playing chess in the park. I don't know why that visual cracks me up so much, but it does. And my number 1 favorite little touch of this ride, the idea that the other tourists are aliens in disguise. It's kind of the opposite of Star Tours making one of the other tourists the rebel spy. It pits the tourists against each other. It's basically Universal pulling a Monsters Are Due on Maple Street scenario, but in-universe, you just happen to be the real agents and they're not. Of course, this effect is diminished when they're only loading guests into one side of the track, but the aliens are invisible then, yeah. Anyway, your car score determines whether or not you get to be an agent. But even if you get a high enough score, your suit's not ready yet, and either way, you get neuralized. You know, if they were going for accuracy, there wouldn't be a ride at all. They'd just say we rode a great ride, but we forgot all about it when they flashed us with the neuralizer. So the moral is, sometimes accuracy isn't the most important factor in a theme park environment. Okay, we have to talk about this. I miss the Back to the Future ride more than I miss some members of my own family. It's no secret that Back to the Future is my favorite film trilogy, and the ride was delightful, featuring all of the action and comedy you'd expect from the franchise, and Christopher Lloyd and Tom Wilson doing what they do best. Frankly, after everything he's been through, I was just happy to see Doc as a successful, renowned scientist, with his own institute giving tours, which again kinda fits with the Expo theme if you squint at it. But alas, everything I fall in love with must eventually break up with me and file a restraining order before mysteriously vanishing off the face of the earth, and Back to the Future the ride was no exception. I bought this shirt at this gift shop. I mean, it didn't look like this back then. It was just Back to the Future the store, which I guess isn't really a very interesting theme for a store. I mean, it's interesting content-wise, but it doesn't really make any sense from an aesthetic standpoint. It's like, there's nothing in-universe it could have been. Well, no, they should have made it the antique shop. That's what they should have done for the theme. Why didn't they ask me back when they were designing? That's not the point. The point is now this shirt actually is an antique. I mean, you can't get this in there anymore. It's just Simpsons stuff. And it's cool that there's Simpsons stuff, but I miss the Back to the Future stuff. I mean, I have a picture of me and my buddy Larry in front of that store back when the DeLorean was in front of there with Doc Brown, and it was like the highlight of my high school senior trip. I mean, Larry, back me up on this one.
Dave, what have I told you about calling me with your existential crises?
They can't be theme park related?
They can't be theme park related!
Why is it gone? Why did the Institute of Future Technology have to close? These questions were eating at me, so I decided to ask the only man who would know the answer.
Well, what happened was too many people were getting off the experiment before it came to a complete stop, and thereby falling through the time-space continuum. And then I'd have to find them somewhere between 10 and 150,000 years in the past or the future. You can see why this became a problem. You guys should have had flying cars by now. Not to mention helicopters.
Yeah, Doc's still here. And he rides a bike with a flux capacitor. That must be a bitch to get up to 88. And Universal still shows Back to the Future some love. The theme music still plays in Production Central. The DeLorean and train are still here. There's still some merchandise. Clips show up in montages in the parks. They just no longer show it a ride's worth of love. But if it had to go, well, at least its replacement made a whole lot more sense than Twister.
If you start building a balloon for every flash-in-the-pan cartoon character, you'll turn the parade into a farce.
Now, I love The Simpsons as much as the next guy who stopped watching after season 8, and a Springfieldian theme park attraction was inevitable. They had already parodied television, film, comic books, and video games from both within those mediums and outside of them, and they've parodied theme parks from the outside, so time to come on in. Although, funny enough, the original pitch for this ride wouldn't have been a direct theme park parody, but a tour of Mr. Burns' nuclear plant driven by Otto. But when Harry Shearer dropped out, leaving 30% of Springfield's residents voiceless, it was time for Plan B. This ride fought an uphill battle with me by replacing one of my favorite things in existence, but damn it, it's like it knew how hurt I was and was trying its hardest to specifically win me back. Tons of theme park inside jokes that are actual jokes and not just bitter jabs. Okay, those are funny. Itchy and Scratchy doing the safety video? That's the most brilliant idea I've ever heard. The ride is a Sideshow Bob episode? Shut up and take my reference to your other show! And they even try to make amends by hilariously explaining in-universe what happened to the old ride, complete with Doc Brown cameo. And they got Christopher Lloyd for it, even though they easily could have just used Dan. And sure, as I mentioned, no new Harry Shearer dialogue. Hell, Phil Hartman's in this ride as much as Harry Shearer is. But the ride is still so jam-packed with character cameos that his absence is minimally felt. And hey, at least Florida still has one ride that takes its passengers to hell. And of course, there are jokes crammed in every possible corner. Originally, the front of the queue was made to look like fake carnival game booths with snarky jokes about the awfulness of carnival games. But now that Amity's demolished, they needed somewhere to put the actual carnival games. But they still kept the snarky jokes about the awfulness of carnival games. Is it hypocritical to take people's money while mocking people for giving you money? I don't know, but it makes me laugh. You know, I've heard defenders of Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama talk about how it's supposed to be a parody of tourist traps, the kind of tacky thing that would be set up near a place famous for dinosaur digs. Like the kind of alien-themed tourist traps that show up at Roswell. The problem with that is the Imagineers are too good at what they do. And they made it look like an actual tacky tourist trap. They put up cheap rides and then spent extra money to make the surrounding area look and feel cheap, and that just wasn't a goal worthy of a Disney park. If we want cheap rides, they're just a few steps off property. But The Simpsons knows how to parody a tacky tourist trap while still giving us a non-tacky, genuinely entertaining experience. And The Simpsons are rejuvenating this whole corner of the park. Since my last visit, they replaced that International Food and Film Festival that I literally forgot was there every single time I came to the park with the Springfield Fast Food Boulevard. I'm sure the food's not all that different, but look at the atmosphere. Finally, this corner of the park has some honest-to-God theming. The Simpsons ride is an excellent and essential addition to the theme park industry. I just wish we didn't have to lose Back to the Future for it, especially when there's a perfectly bulldozable Shrek a few blocks away. But at least they included the ride, film, and the pre-show on all subsequent DVD and Blu-ray releases, so I can always recreate the experience at home. It's like I'm really 30 years in the future, in 2015. I think I'm getting motion sickness. Screw it. Next time, we are looking at the kid stuff.
I don't think it's ever not on the TV screen. People tell me, I thought you'd be really mean. Doesn't matter if I tell them that movies are pretend. They still want me to say, what are you looking at, butthead? What are you looking at, butthead? Do you all hang out together? No, we don't. How's Crispin Glover? Never talk to him. Back to the Future 4 never happened. And stop asking me the question.